How often do you find yourself waiting for permission to begin? Waiting for the right moment, the perfect sign, the grand epiphany that will finally kickstart the life you know you were meant to live? We're all guilty of it. We spend our lives in a state of suspended animation, convinced that our purpose, our calling, is something we must find, a hidden treasure buried beneath the noise of the world. We believe our dreams are a lottery ticket we're just waiting to win. But what if I told you that your calling isn't a destination you stumble upon, but a masterpiece you meticulously build brick by brick, moment by moment, with the tireless and often invisible labor of your daily life? We've been sold a grand illusion, haven't we? The fairy tale of the overnight success, the aha moment that changes everything. We look at giants like Elon Musk, and we see the rocket launches and the groundbreaking electric cars. We see the final breathtaking product. We don't see the thousands of small, unglamorous decisions made in the dark. We don't see the relentless grind, the canceled plans, the moments of doubt wrestled into submission by the sheer force of will. We see the spotlight, but we ignore the scaffolding that held the entire structure together. This romanticized view of success is the thief of your potential. It convinces you that the heroic act is the grand gesture, the all-in moment, the single monumental decision that will define your future. And so you wait. You wait for the stars to align, for the perfect business partner, for the magical investor to say yes. But the truth is, the most heroic act you can perform is the simple, silent, unwavering commitment to show up when you're tired, to show up when you're afraid, to show up when no one is watching, because your calling is not found in a single burst of inspiration. It is forged in the fire of consistent, deliberate, and often unglamorous action. This is the central, unyielding truth of the human experience, a principle understood by every titan of industry, every world-changing inventor, every visionary who ever bent reality to their will. It's the silent philosophy that guided Thomas Edison as he failed over 1,000 times before he created a working light bulb. Did he wake up one morning and suddenly find the solution? No. He showed up, day after day, a man of staggering patience, fueled by a singular obsession. He didn't see failure as a sign to stop. He saw it as a data point, an elimination of one more way that didn't work. His success was not a stroke of genius, but the cumulative result of 1,000,000 tiny, deliberate choices. The same is true for Henry Ford. His vision of a mass-produced automobile was a dream, a wild ambition in the world of horse-drawn carriages. But that dream wasn't built in a single moment of inspiration. It was built with every single piece of his assembly line, a process he painstakingly optimized, relentlessly improved, and obsessively refined. He didn't wait for the world to be ready for him. He built the world he wanted to live in, one bolt, one gear, one incremental improvement at a time. This is the difference between a dreamer and a doer. The dreamer waits for the world to give them something. The doer, the builder, the one who truly understands this timeless principle, knows that you must first give the world something, even if it's just the small, quiet, persistent act of showing up today. So let's stop waiting for the invitation. Let's stop looking for a sign from the universe. The universe isn't going to send you a carrier pigeon with a detailed business plan. The universe is waiting for you to build your own path, to lay your own bricks, to start today, not tomorrow. Because the grand destiny you imagine for yourself, the one that feels so far away, is nothing more than the sum of every small, intentional step you take right now. The greatest visionaries, from Walt Disney dreaming of a cartoon mouse to Abraham Lincoln dreaming of a united nation, didn't achieve their purpose in a single heroic leap. They achieved it through a relentless, unyielding commitment to daily progress, a single-minded focus on the next right step, and a profound understanding that the future is not a place you find, but a place you create with your own two hands. And it all begins with your mind. You see, before you can build anything in the physical world, you must first build a fortress in your mind. This is where the battle is won or lost. It's not about what you have, but what you believe. Your mind is the ultimate architect of your reality. It is a garden, and every thought you plant is a seed. Do you tend to it with care, pulling out the weeds of doubt and fear, or do you let it become an overgrown, tangled mess of limiting beliefs and self-sabotage? Think of your mind as the command center of your life. Every order, every direction, every action you take is filtered through its programming. If your internal dialogue is a constant loop of "I can't," "I'm not good enough," or "it's too hard," then you're running a self-destruct sequence. You're building your future on a foundation of sand, destined to crumble at the first sign of pressure. But if you begin to rewrite the code, to change the narrative from one of scarcity to one of possibility, from one of weakness to one of strength, you begin to build something unshakable. This is not some New Age platitude. This is the bedrock of all lasting achievement, a truth that Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, understood better than almost anyone. He didn't just build a steel empire. He built an empire of belief. He surrounded himself with men of unshakable resolve, men who believed in the impossible. He knew that his success was not just a product of steel and machinery, but a reflection of the collective conviction of the people he led. He understood that a man with a clear, burning belief can move mountains, not because of some mystical power, but because that belief fuels the persistent daily action required to make the impossible inevitable. So the first step, before you even lift a finger, is to audit your beliefs. What stories are you telling yourself about your potential, about your abilities, about what's possible for you? Be brutal in your honesty. Because until you confront and dismantle the limiting beliefs that are holding you hostage, every action you take will be sabotaged from within. You can have all the talent in the world, all the resources, all the opportunities, but if you don't believe you are capable of seizing them, they will pass you by like a ghost. And this process of belief building is not passive. It's an active daily discipline. It's about feeding your mind a steady diet of empowering, positive, and constructive thoughts. It's about being vigilant about the information you consume, the people you surround yourself with, and the words you speak to yourself and others. It's about standing guard at the door of your mind and refusing entry to any thought or idea that does not serve your higher purpose. Because the world is already filled with enough negativity and doubt, you don't need to be adding to it from within. Once you have fortified your mind, the next step is to achieve absolute clarity. Most people walk through life in a fog, a hazy blur of vague aspirations and half-hearted intentions. They say they want to be successful or happy or rich, but they couldn't define what that actually looks like. They don't have a blueprint. They have a daydream. A daydream is a nice distraction. A blueprint is a non-negotiable plan. Think of it like this. You wouldn't hire an architect and tell him, "Just build me a nice house." That's an invitation for chaos. You'd give them a detailed plan, a list of specifications, a clear vision of what you want the final product to be. This level of clarity is not optional. It is fundamental to all great achievement. When your vision is clear, it acts as a magnet, pulling the right people, the right opportunities, and the right resources into your orbit. Walt Disney didn't just want to build an amusement park. He had a meticulous, almost fanatical vision of what Disneyland would be. He could see it, taste it, feel it, long before the first shovel ever broke ground. He knew where every tree would be planted, what the atmosphere would feel like, the emotions he wanted to evoke in every visitor. That clarity became the single guiding force behind every decision, every design, every investment. It was his North Star, and it guided him through years of rejection and financial peril. And it's that same level of crystal clear vision that separates the truly great from the merely good. The good have an idea, the great have an obsession. Your vision must be so vivid, so detailed, that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. You need to close your eyes and see your future self. What are you doing? Who are you with? What does your environment look like? What does success smell like, sound like, feel like? Don't just think about it. Immerse yourself in it. Write it down. Create a vision board. Build a tangible representation of your future, because a vague idea is easily forgotten. A detailed vision, etched into the very fabric of your being, becomes a non-negotiable reality you are compelled to create. And with that clarity comes purpose. This is not the find your purpose, feel good mantra you hear in self-help seminars. This is a cold, hard, driving force. Purpose is the fuel that powers your engine when every other tank is empty. It's the reason you get up at 4 a.m. to work on your dream when the rest of the world is asleep. It's the conviction that your work is bigger than yourself, that you are not just building a career, you are building a legacy. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't have a vision for a better America. He had a purpose, a morally righteous conviction that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. This purpose was not just a goal. It was a calling, a driving force so powerful that it gave him the strength to face down death threats, violent opposition, and years of tireless struggle. His purpose was the engine of his movement, the very reason it could not be stopped. So, what is your purpose? Not your job title, not your salary, but the deepest, most profound reason you are here? What problem are you uniquely positioned to solve? What contribution are you compelled to make? This isn't about chasing fame or fortune, though those may be a byproduct of your work. This is about finding the thing that makes you feel alive, the thing you would do even if you were never paid for it, the thing that when you're doing it, you lose all track of time, because that is where your greatest power lies. When you align your daily actions with your deepest purpose, your work stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a mission. And a person on a mission is unstoppable. But a mission without discipline is just a dream. This is where most people falter. They have the great idea, the inspiring vision, the burning purpose, but they lack the daily, unglamorous discipline to see it through. They are waiting for motivation to strike them like a lightning bolt. They believe that they can only work when they feel like it. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the human psyche works. Motivation is a fickle, fleeting emotion. It's like a spark, a brief flash of inspiration. Discipline is the engine that keeps the fire burning long after the spark has faded. Think of it like this. Your emotions are the weather, constantly changing. Your discipline is the foundation of your house, solid and unmoving, regardless of the storm outside. You don't need to feel motivated to build. You simply need to have the discipline to show up and lay the next brick and the next and the next. Because the truth is, the more you show up, the more you act, the more you build, the more motivated you become. Discipline doesn't follow motivation. It creates it. The great ones understood this. The prolific writer doesn't wait for inspiration. They sit down at the desk at the same time every day and write, whether the words are flowing or not. The world-class athlete doesn't wait to feel motivated to train. They show up at the gym and put in the work, even on the days they'd rather stay in bed. Muhammad Ali didn't become the greatest by waiting for motivation. He became the greatest by relentlessly, fanatically, and obsessively committing to the daily discipline of training, even when he was tired, even when he was hurting. He had the clarity of his vision he was going to be the greatest. And he had the discipline to make that vision a reality, one punch, one training session, one excruciating moment at a time. This isn't about some superhuman willpower. It's about building a system. It's about making your daily actions non-negotiable. It's about creating habits and routines that support your goals so that you are propelled forward by momentum rather than by the fleeting whim of your emotions. Because when you can't rely on your feelings, you must rely on your rituals. And those rituals, repeated day after day after day, are what build a life of consequence. They are the invisible scaffolding that holds up the grand vision. And all of this work, the mindset, the clarity, the purpose, the discipline is ultimately meaningless without action. This is the moment of truth. This is where the dream meets reality. This is where the talk stops and the work begins. We live in a world saturated with information, with podcasts and books and seminars that promise to unlock the secrets to success. And yet, most people who consume all this knowledge never act on it. They become what I call motivational tourists, people who visit the land of self-improvement without ever building a home there. They know all the right words, they can recite all the principles, but they never take the first step. Henry Ford had the vision of a car for every family, but he didn't achieve it by just thinking about it. He had to build the first one, and then the next, and then the next. He had to face the skepticism, the failures, the challenges of a completely new industry. His success was not a stroke of genius, but a relentless series of actions, each one a small, incremental step towards his ultimate goal. He understood that a great idea without action is just a forgotten thought. So, what is your first step? Not the grand, monumental leap, but the small, tangible, and immediate action you can take right now. The world doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your dreams. It only cares about what you actually do. And the beautiful paradox of action is that it often clarifies the path forward. You don't need to have all the answers before you begin. You just need to begin. As you take the first step, the second will become clear, and the third, it's a journey of discovery, not a pre-planned expedition. The path is built by those who walk it. But walking the path, taking action, is not always easy. In fact, it's rarely easy. It will be met with resistance, with setbacks, with moments that will make you question everything. This is where the next pillar of your calling is built, resilience. Resilience is not just about bouncing back from failure. It's about learning to lean into the pain, to see setbacks not as an ending, but as essential information. It's the ability to get knocked down 7 times and get up 8, not out of stubbornness, but out of a deep-seated belief in your purpose and your ability to see it through. Think of Abraham Lincoln. His life was a symphony of failure. He lost his job, he lost his first love, he failed in business, he failed in multiple political campaigns, and he suffered from what we would now call severe depression. He was a man who knew the bitter taste of defeat intimately. And yet he never stopped. He never gave up on his purpose. His resilience was not born of an absence of pain, but from the ability to keep moving forward despite it. His greatness was not a result of an easy path, but of his unwavering commitment to his course, even when it felt like the entire world was conspiring against him. The trials and tribulations were not a sign for him to quit. They were the very forge that hammered his character into steel. This is a critical distinction. We are often taught to avoid pain, to seek comfort. But growth, true growth, happens in discomfort. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly without a painful and transformative struggle. The oyster doesn't create a pearl without an irritating grain of sand. Your greatest achievements will be born from your greatest challenges. So, stop running from the pain. Embrace it. See it as a necessary part of the process, a vital teacher, a signal that you are pushing the boundaries of what you once thought was possible. And a huge part of resilience is adaptability. The world is not a static place. The ground is constantly shifting beneath our feet. The great ones, the ones who truly endure, are not the most intelligent or the most talented, but the ones who are the most adaptable. They don't fall in love with their ideas, they fall in love with their purpose. And when the path to that purpose changes, when the landscape shifts, they are willing to let go of what isn't working and pivot with a single-minded focus on the goal. Steve Jobs, after being ousted from Apple, didn't give up on his purpose of creating groundbreaking technology. He adapted. He started NXT and Pixar, and through those ventures, he honed his skills and refined his vision, ultimately paving the way for his triumphant return to Apple and the creation of products that would change the world. His failure was not the end of his story. It was a crucial chapter, a period of forced adaptability that ultimately made him and his company stronger. The unadaptable person holds on to a sinking ship, convinced that their original idea is the only way. The resilient and adaptable person, however, sees a storm and learns to build a new kind of vessel. As you build this new life, this new purpose, you must never forget the importance of gratitude. This may sound like a soft skill in a world of hard-driving ambition, but it is, in fact, one of the most powerful and fundamental forces you can master. Gratitude is not a passive feeling. It is a powerful practice. It's a deliberate decision to focus on what you have rather than what you lack. And this shift in focus is nothing short of a superpower. When you practice gratitude, you are essentially programming your mind for abundance. You are telling your brain to look for the good, to find the opportunities, to see the blessings in your life, no matter how small. And what the mind seeks, it finds. The person who is constantly focused on what they don't have is blind to the opportunities right in front of them. The person who is grateful for what they do have, however, sees a world full of possibility. They see the resources, the connections, the moments of luck that others miss entirely. This is not about being complacent. It's about being fueled by appreciation rather than driven by a sense of lack. Gratitude is the anchor that keeps you grounded, the reminder that you have come this far and you are capable of going even further. It is the fuel that prevents burnout and keeps your spirit alive, even in the darkest of time. And it's a practice that you can start right now. A simple, quiet moment each day to reflect on the things, big and small, that you are thankful for. Because the more you appreciate what you have, the more the universe seems to conspire to give you more to be grateful for. And finally, as you build, as you act, as you endure, you must never, ever stop learning. The moment you believe you have all the answers is the moment you begin to stagnate. The greatest minds, the most enduring legacies, are built on a foundation of insatiable curiosity. They are not afraid to be a beginner again, to ask the dumb questions, to admit what they don't know. Think of Warren Buffett, a man in his 90s who still spends a significant portion of his day reading. He is not reading for entertainment. He is reading to learn, to refine his understanding of the world, to find new opportunities, to avoid old mistakes. He understands that the world is a constantly changing marketplace of ideas. And if you stop learning, you stop growing. You become obsolete. The very act of reading, of listening, of seeking out new knowledge is an act of humility, a recognition that the universe is vast and your knowledge is a small but ever-expanding part of it. Your calling is not a finished product. It is a continuous creation. It is a work in progress. And the tools of your trade are not just your skills or your resources. They are your mind, your beliefs, your purpose, and your unwavering commitment to daily, deliberate, and often unglamorous action. So let me ask you one last time. Are you still waiting for permission? Are you still waiting for a sign? Or are you ready to pick up the tools and begin the work? Are you ready to see that your purpose isn't a prize to be won, but a muscle to be worked, a garden to be tended, a life to be built, brick by small, intentional brick, day after unglamorous day? The world is not waiting for you to find your calling. The world is waiting for you to build it. And it all begins not with a grand gesture, but with a small, quiet, and profoundly powerful decision you make right now. But let's be honest. This is the part of the story where most people tune out. They hear the words discipline and action and resilience, and they nod in agreement, but their hearts sink. It sounds hard. It sounds like a lot of work, and it is, because the path of least resistance leads to a life of least consequence. The path of deliberate, disciplined action, however, leads to a life you could only have once imagined. We've been conditioned to believe that our feelings are the compass that should guide us. Follow your passion. The world tells us, do what feels good. And while passion is a powerful force, it is an emotion. And emotions by their very nature are temporary. They are a fleeting fire, not a sustainable furnace. You cannot build a skyscraper with a single spark of passion, but you can build one with the unwavering discipline of showing up with one brick and then another and another and another long after the initial excitement has faded. This is the hidden key that John D. Rockefeller mastered. His empire wasn't built on a foundation of fleeting enthusiasm. It was built on a foundation of unyielding obedience to his purpose. He faced scandals, public hatred, and legal battles that would have crushed a lesser man. But he didn't waver. Why? Because his actions were not tied to his emotions. They were tied to his law, his creed, his relentless pursuit of a vision he had etched in stone. He understood that the man who ties his destiny to his mood will always be a drifter. But the man who ties his identity to a law he has set for himself will walk through the weather unchanged. Your purpose must outlive your feelings. That is the vow you must make. And this leads us to an often overlooked but utterly crucial principle: the power of the mastermind. Napoleon Hill spent years studying the most successful people of his era, and he found a common thread. None of them achieved their greatness alone. They all had a mastermind alliance, a group of like-minded individuals working in a spirit of perfect harmony toward a common, definite objective. Think of Henry Ford and his team of engineers. Think of Walt Disney and his early animators. Think of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. The alchemy of a mastermind group is not just about pooling knowledge. It's about a synergistic effect where the collective intelligence of the group becomes exponentially greater than the sum of its individual parts. It's an invisible, intangible force that creates new ideas, new solutions, and a level of encouragement and accountability that is impossible to achieve in isolation. You are not meant to do this alone. Solitude is for reflection, for clarity, for the hard work of building your own character. But true progress, true conquest, requires collaboration. You need people in your corner who believe in your vision, even when you momentarily lose sight of it. You need people who will challenge your assumptions, push you past your comfort zone, and hold you accountable to the promises you make to yourself. Seek out these people. They are not to be found in casual social circles. They are found in the arena, in the trenches, among those who are also relentlessly building their own lives of consequence. But a mastermind alliance is not just about taking. It is also about giving. This leads us to the principle of going the extra mile. This is the ancient, unshakable law of compensation. It states simply that you get what you give and then some. The person who is only willing to do the minimum required, who is always watching the clock, who is always focused on what they are owed, will receive the minimum in return. Their life will be a constant calculation of effort versus reward, and in the end, both will be meager. But the person who understands the law of the extra mile is a master of their own destiny. They are the ones who put in more and better service than they are paid for. They do it not out of a need for recognition, but out of a profound understanding that this is how you prime the pump of prosperity. This is how you create value in the world. And when you create value, the universe, in its own mysterious and perfect way, conspires to give you more in return. Look at the history of any great company or any great leader. They didn't start by demanding a king's ransom. They started by giving, by solving a problem, by delivering immense value to others. Andrew Carnegie didn't become a titan of industry by just making steel. He became one by relentlessly improving the process, by delivering a product of such superior quality that the world couldn't help but pay him for it. He went the extra mile every single time, and the universe paid him back in kind. This is a fundamental shift in perspective. Stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? Stop looking at your job as a transaction and start seeing it as an opportunity to create and to serve. Because the moment you change the lens through which you see the world changes how it sees you. You will move from being a taker to a creator, from a liability to an asset, from a consumer to a contributor. And in this process of creation, you will inevitably face moments of defeat and adversity. This is where most people stop. They see a setback as a sign from the universe that they should give up. They interpret temporary defeat as permanent failure. But the true builder, the one who understands these principles, knows that defeat is not a stop sign, it is a signal for redirection. This is the principle of adversity and defeat, a crucial part of the process. Every great victory is born from a series of smaller defeats. The successful person simply uses these defeats as a learning experience. They don't see them as a reflection of their personal worth. They see them as data, as a necessary part of the scientific process of building a great life. They analyze the failure, they extract the lesson, they adapt their plan, and they get back to work. Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC, was rejected over 10 times before a restaurant finally said yes to his chicken recipe. Imagine that. 1,000 times he heard the word no. 1,000 times he could have interpreted that as a sign to quit, but he didn't. He saw each rejection not as a failure, but as an opportunity to refine his pitch, to find the right partner, to get closer to his goal. His defeat was his greatest teacher, and his ultimate success was in exact proportion to the scope of the defeats he was willing to endure and master. This is why you must never give up. Not because you are guaranteed to win, but because the very act of not giving up is where the greatest transformation occurs. It's in the quiet moments of defeat, when no one is watching, that you discover the true measure of your character. It's when you get back up, when you refuse to quit, that you forge the steel of your soul. And all of this, all of the mindset, the clarity, the purpose, the discipline, the action, the resilience, the gratitude, the learning, all of it is brought to life through the most potent and sacred force you possess, your imagination. This is not a child's daydream. This is a scientific and divine tool. Your imagination is the blueprint of your future. It is the architect that creates the vision before your hands can build it. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This is not just a saying. It is a law of the universe. The things we see in the world today, the skyscrapers, the airplanes, the computers, the internet, all of it existed first in the invisible realm of someone's imagination. A single thought, a single idea, a single image in the mind of a visionary was the genesis of everything you see around you. The most powerful thing you can do for your future is to take conscious control of your imagination. Stop using it as a place to replay your fears and your failures. Stop using it as a place to dwell on what could go wrong. Instead, begin to use it as a sanctuary for your future. Close your eyes and see yourself as the person you are becoming. Feel the emotions of success. Hear the sounds of your new reality. Smell the air of your future life. Immerse yourself in that reality with such vivid detail and such emotional intensity that it begins to feel more real than your present. Because your imagination, when coupled with a burning desire and a definite plan, is the most powerful tool for manifestation in existence. It is the master key that unlocks every door, the creative force that brings the invisible into the visible. So, let's bring this all back to the beginning. We started with the question, are you waiting for permission to begin? The truth is, the permission you've been waiting for is not coming from the outside. It is an internal decree. It is the conscious decision to stop drifting and start building. It is the realization that your calling is not a mythical bird you're meant to capture, but a towering cathedral you are meant to construct. Your calling is not built in a single heroic act, but in the relentless, unyielding, and profoundly meaningful work of every single day. It is built in the small, quiet moments when you choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, and action over inaction. It is built in the tiny, almost imperceptible decisions you make when no one is watching. And so the question is not, what is my calling? The question is, what will I build today? The world doesn't need another person who talks about their dreams. It needs a builder. It needs a master craftsman of their own life. It needs you to begin. Your grand destiny, the life you've always imagined for yourself, is not a gift from the heavens. It is a reward for the relentless, daily, and disciplined work of building. The universe is not a vending machine dispensing success for a coin of good intention. It is a mirror reflecting back to you the sum total of every single action you take. You were not born to drift. You were not born to wait. You were born to build. So stand up. Take command of your mind, your beliefs, your vision, and your purpose. Choose a definite major aim, and then, with unwavering discipline, with the unyielding spirit of a master craftsman, take the first step, and the second, and the third. And do not stop until the masterpiece of your life is complete, because your calling is built by those who craft daily, and the day to begin is today.